Hi, I'm Gary West, and welcome to Kentucky Sports Legends. Today we profile Howie Crittenden, the star guard of the 1952 Sweet 16 state champs, the Cuba Cubs. Howie Crittenden was born on March 13, 1933, in the small southwestern Kentucky town of Pilot Oak. Howie and his twin sister were the youngest of 10 children growing up during the Depression era of rural Kentucky. At a young age, Howie's lifetime love of basketball began when he would practice shooting a little rubber ball into a tin molasses can that had been nailed on the family smokehouse. In the fall of 1947, the coach of the Cuba Cub basketball team, Jack Story, noticed 5 8th graders playing basketball rather enthusiastically on the playground. Coach Story approached the boys and began inspiring them with the belief that they could win the state basketball championship of Kentucky in 1952, their senior year. Howie Crittenden was one of those captivated boys. Coach Story would tell them stories about the tiny team from Carr Creek that won the championship in 1928. He also showed them a film of the Harlem Globetrotters, which showcased their magical trick shots and ball handling ability. After watching the film numerous times, the boys were instructed to practice what they had just seen. The dream almost came true in their junior year in 1951 as the Cuba Cubs lost the championship game of the Sweet 16 tournament to Clark County. But along the way, the team from Cuba captivated the state of Kentucky with their courageous and colorful play, becoming the most popular team at the tourney. Coach Story and the Cubs returned to the Sweet 16 the following year in 1952. Howie, along with his best friend Charles Doodle Floyd, would lead the Cubs to victory and win the state championship. The dream that Coach Story and the 8th graders envisioned years before had indeed come true. By the time Howie Crittenden's career was over at Cuba, he had been selected to both the All-State and All-Tourney teams in 1951 and 1952. In 1952, Howie also earned the honor of being named All-American. After high school, Howie attended Murray State University, where he would go on to hold the record for all-time leading scorer for 34 years. He still holds records to this day, and in 1969 he was inducted into the Murray State Athletic Hall of Fame. Murray State retired Howie's basketball jersey, and it hangs in the arena today. Howie would go on to play professionally in the National Industrial Basketball League. He was named AAU All-American in 1957, 1958, and 1960. In 1958, Howie was selected on the first USA basketball team to ever tour in Russia. They won all 6 games. When his basketball playing days came to a close, Howie's career choice would lead to education. He spent 36 years in the school system of Kentucky, 29 of those years as principal of Callaway County and Henderson County. Howie received many honors as a principal and administrator. In 1990, he was named Kentucky's Secondary School Principal of the Year. In 1999, a book by Mary Ann Walker was published called When Cuba Conquered Kentucky. The book follows the highs and lows of the tiny team from Cuba that would capture the minds and hearts of the entire state, and along the way, win the Sweet 16 tournament in 1952. In 1977, Howie was inducted to the Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame. The Kentucky High School Athletic Hall of Fame inducted Howie in 1989, and in September of 2004, Howie was inducted into the Kentucky Athletic Hall of Fame. In March of 2001, Howie was selected as one of the 50 best basketball players to ever play in the Kentucky High School basketball tournament, noted as one of the Fabulous 50. From growing up in a small town in Kentucky to becoming a state champion, an All-American, and educating the youth of Kentucky for over 35 years, Howie Crittenden has truly earned the right to be called a Kentucky sports legend. I'm Gary West. Thanks for watching.
I got interested in basketball when I was in the 2nd grade. I was in school at a little place called Pilot Oak, Kentucky. And the teachers in the afternoon would let the 2nd grade go up in the gym, and we had a little old rubber ball about the size of a volleyball. So we would run up and down the gym floor chasing each other and throwing the ball around. And so that was my initiation into the love for basketball. Also had a brother that's 9 years older than I am, and he played a little basketball at Pilot Oak. But all of those things started my focus toward basketball. We got sidetracked a little bit. During World War II, the whole family moved from Graves County to Detroit, Michigan, and We were up there 2.5 years, the worst 2.5 years of my life. And we had what was called gym. And so now we could call it physical education. But we'd get out there and we could play different activities. And so when it was basketball time, boy, I loved that. And I could shoot the basketball at that time. I think I was in the 4th grade with 2 hands. And the teacher came over one day and said, "Where did you learn to shoot with 2 hands?" And I said, "Well, in Kentucky." So that helped me to feel really proud that I had done something that the other children couldn't do. They'd shoot between their legs and so forth. Then after the war, we moved back to Grays County, to the Palo Oak area, and all of my buddies that I'd been in school with were still around there. And finally, when I got to the 7th grade, they had moved, consolidated Palo Oak with Cuba High School. The greatest thing that ever happened to me as far as having someone to guide us, when we were in the 8th grade, Coach Jack Story came to Cuba High School as principal and coach, and that was the luckiest thing that could have ever happened to us as a group of young men. And he started showing us film of the Globetrotters. He had a total different attitude about basketball than any other coach that we had ever known, or even any of the coaches in that whole area had ever shown any influence on. He wanted us to learn to play like the Globetrotters. At the time that we were playing, you never ever saw anyone who would dribble behind their back, between their legs, pass the ball behind their back, no look passes. We warmed up like the Globetrotters. So it gave me a lot of confidence. But Coach Story still inspires me even today when I think about how he would handle us and the things he would say to us. For instance, the first time he ever talked to us, and he started talking to us about, here's what I want to see you boys learn to do. And he would say, start out by shaking hands, saying, I don't want you to shake like a dead fish, because someday you're going to have a lot of people shaking your hand. And he said, if you play the style of play I want you to, said, you won't be able to get people in this gym. Well, our gym only seated about 200, and we never saw it full. The thing he taught us to do, he said, if you want to be a great basketball player, you've got to learn to move with the ball just the way you can without the ball. Just by that comment, I gave all of my effort to learn to move with the basketball, just like I could without the basketball. But the interest and the excitement that Coach Story developed at Cuba High School and among all of us, and it took 2 years for the thrill to spread over the whole Purchase area of Kentucky. Well, in our junior year of high school, we didn't lose a basketball game in Western Kentucky. In fact, we only lost 2 the whole year. And we go to the state tournament. That was one of the first years, I believe, for Memorial Coliseum in Lexington. Coach Story took us inside. We were looking around, and my buddy Doodle said, boy, you sure could get a lot of hay in here. And of course, we all laughed, but those were the things that was, well, it was the largest place we'd ever seen. And we were fortunate. We won all the way up to the championship game as our junior year, and Clark County defeated us. When we were seniors, we were more mature, we were smarter basketball players. We had a great year, even though we got beat during the season. We got beat 5 games, and we had a tremendous amount of confidence. And we go back to the state tournament, and every game in the state tournament we'd be behind at half. And then that night against Louisville Manual, we had the same type of situation. They got ahead of us in the first half. We had to fight back. Once we got ahead, Louisville Manual lost their confidence, and we ended up winning by 6 points to win the championship. And that was like a dream that had come true, because Coach Story had told us all of these things that could happen to us. It doesn't sound real, but it is real. He told us some of the things that could happen to us if we would learn to play basketball with the style of play that he wanted us to use. And that was, just an exciting time. And the thing about Coach Story, I give him credit for really all of the things that I've been able to do in basketball. The store was more over here. It was a little bit closer to that.
So that road was there.
It wasn't black,
It's gravel.
that's right.
Oh,
Yeah,
see, that's a great
we were
picture
in
there.
Harper's store.
Do you remember this picture?
Yeah, I sure do.
You had that picture.
Oh, yeah.
Gift to Mary Ann.
Oh, I was pouring it on Doodle. We could have a big checker game. And then these old men gather around, they'd take sides. But he accused me of picking up some of his men off of the board right before they took the picture.
Let me see him again. He's a reprobate.
And I may have.
And I may have. You know what? I like their socks.
Oh, no. Why didn't look at your shoes?
Hey, well,
Yeah.
They don't look like
Walking
sharecropper
socks.
shoes.
here's what Doodles would drink. He'd drink a quart of buttermilk. I'd drink a quart of sweet milk. We'd both get cheese and bologna and crackers. And I'll tell you what, that's good.
Sounds
And
good.
that would be our pregame meal.
Bologna sandwich and a quart of milk.
And
cheese,
crackers.
cheese,
and
bologna, and
cheese.
crackers.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sounds
yeah.
pretty good.
Oh, it is. It was good.
We got a bowl of cornflakes for a pregame meal.
Hello, I'm Charlie Thurman, and today we're visiting with two legendary high school and collegiate stars from Kentucky. We've got Howie Crittenden from Cuba and Murray State University. We've got Phil Rollins from Wycliffe and University of Louisville. These two young men played against each other in high school, had quite a few battles, and managed to play against each other in college. But today we want to spend a little bit of time talking about their careers in high school. Cuba went to the state tournament both years, but you had to beat a very fine ball club in Wycliffe that Phil Rollins starred
That's
on.
right.
So we want to talk a little bit about their time competing against each other in 1951 and 52 at their respective high schools. We want to start with Phil over here, and Phil, tell us a little bit about your high school background.
Yeah, I was there, from 48 to 52. Of course, I got started in the 8th grade on the varsity of the sub. Fortunately, had some success. Jackson purchased 3 times and all district and regional and county. If you were a living, breathing human being in the county, you could make all county just about in those days. All stayed a couple years and had the good fortune of having a scholarship and attended the University of Louisville.
During this period of time, and we might add that your older brother, Kenneth, was a fairly well-known basketball player himself. I believe he played for the University of Kentucky, was on the NCAA championship team in 47 and 48, and is one of the Fabulous Five.
Yes, he is.
So you did have a little bit of gene pool in your system in that.
Absolutely, and of course with Kenneth going on and getting his success kind of made you want to attain that kind of level. Back to the high school, I talking with Howard, we didn't play often against each other in high school. Regional finals 2 years in a row, and then Purchase Mineral Tournament.
Basketball was such a big thing in the state then, so when you knew that Cuba had a pretty good ball club, you knew you had a good ball club. Tell me a little bit about what your feelings was of going up against Cuba, and then let's talk about some of the games that you guys played.
We felt that we had speed as about our biggest asset, I think, as opposed to Howard, and with Doodles we didn't have the size to match up with Doodles, and that was always a detriment for us to try to handle that. The only thing we could hopefully do is maybe beat them up and down the court a little bit more and get lucky here and there. And we were fortunate to get very close my junior year, and the senior year they were better. We weren't as strong as we were the previous year, so felt that we could possibly get them in the region. We figured that if all things came to pass, we would be in the finals of the region one more time, which it worked out that way.
Howard, tell me a little bit about you guys, and obviously you knew a little bit about the history of Wycliffe and the field himself. What was your all's thoughts about facing them 2 times in the regional tournament?
Well, Phil was a great ball player. And the thing I knew when we played them, that I was going to have to guard Phil. And so that he didn't have to guard me. His coach protected him. He didn't want him to get in foul trouble. But I knew I was going to have to work myself to death to guard him. And we would have some good battles. I guess he didn't say anything about it, but I'm sure they knew that when it got down to the last quarter, if we were ahead, that you boys were going to have to chase me around, and so I think that bothered teams some.
That's true. You know, with your handling ability, it would, and the ability to waive the free throw.
Because of your ability to handle the ball and when you got fouled, you didn't have to shoot the foul shots. You could take it out again.
That's right.
Was the rule, the high school rule, changed at that time?
After 1952, that rule was eliminated.
Yeah.
I really believe that rule helped us to win the state because we had all five of our starters were good ball handlers. But no one played like we did in high school. We had a good team, and Phil had a good team. I always dreaded a little bit playing them because they were a good basketball team. It wasn't a one-sided affair.
Well, Phil, Howie, I want to thank you all today for stopping by and visiting with us and giving us a few of the stories from the great era of basketball of the 50s, from high school to college and to a very successful career afterwards.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes, sir.
I am so glad that somebody's doing something for West Kentucky. I think we get left out on some of these things of being recognized for an era, from an area of success in basketball and some outstanding people. And I appreciate your effort in putting this thing together, let people know that, you know, we did survive.
Well,
the good old Jackson Purchase were there.
thank you for that. And one of the things that we have found out in traveling around the state, there was great basketball in Eastern Kentucky, Central Kentucky, and Western Kentucky. But I think from the publicity point of view, Western Kentucky got left out a lot more. It's been our pleasure to get to meet some of the legends from Western Kentucky and some of the wonderful, great ball clubs that they had down there. So I just want to thank both of you gentlemen for being here today with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Back there, it might still be this road right here.
No, that was a drive.
We're looking here then, this was the school then would have set right in there. And this picture must have been made on this road here.
Yeah, oh yeah. What do you got here? Principal's office or what?
That was a classroom.
And there was 1 through 12 here too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This whole thing. So
How many-
and with the gymnasium in the middle, Bob.
Yeah, that's
How many classes? How many were in a class?
the 7th and 8th graders. It would have probably been up over 30.
In a class?
Yeah, in a class.
Yeah.
That's pretty big. I'm Bob Watkins, and this is 2 of Murray State's best ever. Benny Purcell on my right, Howie Crittenden on my left, and they each have their jerseys hanging in the top of the arena. Anyway, we're going to have some fun tonight with Benny and Howie. How'd you fellas meet?
Well, I came to Murray in 1948, and of course I saw Howie play in high school, and then I think he came over that summer one time when he was in high school, and I think that's the first time we ever met.
When I was a junior in high school, we would come over to some of Murray's games, but Benny was quick as lightning, and he could dribble behind his back and do some of the things that I was trying to learn to do, and he was exciting to watch. He was really a great player.
Your game sure sounds similar.
They were similar, and of course I saw Howie play a couple of times in college because I had left Murray State at that time, but I left in the spring of '52 and he came in the fall of '52. And in many ways, Murray's greatest player. He still holds the records for all the points scored and all that. And
How did Murray recruit you?
Well, the way I happened to come to Murray was Harlan Hodges was a coach at one of the conference schools that I played on. I was from Mount Vernon, Illinois, and he coached at West Frankfort. And so whenever he took this job down here, then he got me to come down here. Murray State's been great to me over the years, and I've had nothing but a great experience.
Well, yours was kind of an interesting experience, your recruiting process too. You want to tell us that story?
I had a lot of scholarship offers when I was a senior in high school, because we'd been runner-up in the state tournament in Kentucky, and then we went back and we won it our senior year, and we played a style that no other high school in Kentucky had ever played.
Yeah.
And we copied after the Globetrotters. I had a lot of opportunities. Rupp came down, and Coach Hickman from U of L, and Coach Diddle. Well, Murray got concerned because I hadn't shown much interest in Murray. And one day after our senior season was over, a student came into class at Cuba High School and said, Howie, your dad's down to office. Well, that scared me to death, because my dad had never been at school during the day. I go down there, and he said, we got to go over to Murray. So they want to talk to you about playing basketball. We go over to Murray, and we go into the Bank of Murray. Mr. George Hart was president of the bank. He controlled the city of Murray, and he controlled a lot of Murray State University. And there were about 7, 8 old men. I thought they were old at that time. Now I wouldn't think they were old. My dad was 67 years of age. He had polio when he was 4 years old. We had a little 30-acre farm, but he'd gotten to the point where he couldn't farm. But first thing that Mr. Hart said was that, now, Howie, if you will play at Murray, the day you agree to play at Murray, your dad will have a job with the highway department. Now, my dad was sitting right here where you are, Bob, and he said he'll keep this job until you graduate. And said, we know that your parents can't give you spending money. We'll have people who'll help do that. Said, it will not cost you a thing. All we want you to do is do right, pass your grades, and work hard in basketball. Well, be honest about it, I did not want to make a commitment, because I really had my mind on Western. But I knew that I couldn't say no, because my dad was there and he needed a job. And I didn't know what to say, and the only thing I could think of, then I thought, well, I said, I don't have clothes to wear like the other students out there. Mr. Hart said, that's no problem. So this gentleman right here owns Corn Austin Men's Store. All you got to do is go in there. Isn't that right? Oh, yeah. And that's how I went to Murray.
One of the people that was really unhappy that Howie came to Murray State instead of going to Western was Uncle Ed Diddle. Now, what did Uncle Ed Diddle say to you?
Well, when Murray told Doodles and I that we couldn't go over to Western and play in that Kentucky-Indiana All-Star game,
Yeah.
Coach Diddle heard about it. Next night, he got Doodles Floyd and me in his car in the back seat, and he got up on the front seat on his knees, elbows on the back. And he said, Crittenden, you told me last summer that you would play. I said, Coach, I want to play, but they tell us that we'll flunk out of summer school. He got mad at me, and he said Crittenden, said, you never score against Western if I had to guard you myself.
Well, that trip that you took coming back from Lexington after winning the state tournament, that must have really been a thrill. Line of traffic went back 18 miles or something.
When we were juniors,
51.
we were runners-up. We had they met us over at Kentucky Lake.
Yeah.
At the bridge, and they estimated 10,000 people, and they had a parade back into Mayfield, and so we all had to get up and say something. Of course, Doodles, he had to make his prediction, so when he got up to say something, he said, I'll just tell you right now, we're going to go back next year and win it all. And so we got, the people go wild. Well, we did go back and win it. Well, along the way, really, we would have deputy sheriffs to pick us up at their county line.
Yeah.
And they would lead us through the county, and they'd radio ahead, and people would go. I remember we stopped at Horse Cave, and people gathered around just to see us and congratulate us. And so then we get back to Kentucky Lake, and that time it was a much larger crowd. They estimated 14,000 people, and it was really a big rally because we had done exactly what Doodle said we were going to do.
We've been talking to two legends, really two basketball purists, pure players, Howie Crittenden, and before him was Benny Purcell, and these are two really Kentucky basketball players, I think, although he had to go through Southern Illinois to get mine.
Well, I've been in Kentucky a long time, and I am a Kentuckian now.
And I feel honored to have talked to them, so I want that to be said too. Thank you.
Now, from right here on, when we first moved down here from Cuba, this was a dirt road. So go straight on through here.
Did you hitchhike from this area here?
No, we were living in Pilot Oak later. I'll show you. This was the first place. Until we were in the second grade, we lived here. Second grade, we moved across from the Pilot Oak School. My dad worked for a while in the cafeteria, and he was a sharecropper. Okay, our farm was about probably a half a mile straight down this fence row right here. And Doodle lived about a mile.
Oh, down that road.
Down that road. I believe that road went right down through here.
But see, there's another road here. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. This is the road here. So is this where the 30-acre farm was? Yeah, it's back down here. So this is the farm he bought when he came back from Detroit. He saved up enough money. That's right. He bought that 30 acres there. And lived in Pilot Oak, okay.
See, and we'd have to take the wagon, come out here and work, and then ride the wagon back into Pilot Oak. My dad owned that 30 acres, but he couldn't farm it when I was in high school, like senior year.
And Doodle lived on down on
Doodle lived about a mile, half a mile past where our 30 acres.
Well, what did his parents do?
They farmed too.
We saw him dribble by.
They could talk
and say, "Yeah, I remember you, kid."
Anybody who's lived in Kentucky knows the name Cal Luther. Cal Luther is a legend in his own time here at Murray State, and so we want to hear some things about him. What have you been doing since you coached, first of all? You left coaching when?
Last
Kicked
summer.
you out? Last summer, okay. Tell us how old you are, too.
Well, do you have to hear all of these things? You didn't tell me that, did you?
He'll edit all this stuff out.
Well, I'm 80.
He's 80. 80. Can you believe it? Anyway, tell us about what you've been doing since you left coaching last summer.
I haven't been in coaching since I coached at University of Tennessee at Martin. My wife and I went to Florida for 7 years. I helped out down there with several high school teams, etc.
Let's ask your former coach, your former assistant, was with you for 10 years. Is that right?
Well, it was longer than that.
Just in basketball. We were together longer than that. But
What was the better part of Coach? What was some of his strengths?
well,
What's about his personality?
I thought as a tactician, he was above any of them as far as a tactician concerned. He mixed up a lot of defenses. We're one of the first guys around here to play 3 or 4 different defenses in one game, and later on other people started doing it, but he was one of the first. And so I always admired the way he coached and the way he could, when we scouted another team, how he could prepare for them.
Tell us how is some of your memories of Coach. I know you didn't play for him.
Well, Cal had some really good teams here at Murray during his tenure as a coach. And I, of course, at that time, for 8 years, I was involved as principal out here at Callaway County. And of course, I attended all of the Murray State basketball games. Probably the thing I remember most personally where I was involved with playing basketball with Cal in the summers. After the school was out, and some of his players would stay around, and some of us has-beens would be out there, and we'd have 3-on-3 games, and it ended up, it was more like semi-football. because we would have some really excellent
Hotly
3-on-3.
contested, yeah.
And the thing with Cal, he would guard me too much. And when I'd try to go around him, he would stiff arm me. He was very strong, and of course he'd put his arm out like this if I was going to my right, and he wouldn't let me by. And that wasn't a foul. That was just good defense.
Well, how'd you come to Murray, and why have you come back to Murray?
When I got out of college, I was very fortunate. I did graduate work at the University of Illinois and was freshman coach there. One of the things they wanted me to do is come down to Murray to the North-South All-Star game, which I'm not sure you're familiar with, but anyway, it was a very big event at that time. It was one of the only event in the country, I believe, anyway.
Yeah, it was at that time.
Where kids came from all over, and so I came down to Murray. One of the fellows on the staff at Illinois was a Murray graduate, a fellow named Bob Shelton. It was one of our top fellows in physical training. And Bob came down with me, and we scouted some of the players there. And I really got to know a few of the people here in the short time I was here. And after I left the University of Illinois, I was there 3 years and got the head coaching job at DePaul University up in Indiana.
Great casting.
And at that time, I stayed at DePaul for 4 years, and at the middle of my 4th year, people at Murray contacted me about the Murray State job opening up. Decided I wanted to come down to Murray, and so I took the job. That was in the fall of 1958.
Okay.
Something Cal mentioned is a North-South game. Now, people now, only the older guys who were involved in basketball would remember that, but that North-South game that was held here at Murray State, and I don't know how Murray State got the game.
Well, I'll tell you who started. It was Harlan Hodges and Ed Kello.
Ed Kello, yeah.
That was two, Ed Kello and Hodges. That's who started.
Well, that was like the now McDonald's All-Americans,
Right.
because they would select 12 kids from the north and 12 from the south here in the States, and they would come in, and those would be the people who would make All-American later on in college. Most of them would make All-American. They would be the ones who would, most of them would go pro. When I graduated from high school, 1952, I was fortunate enough to get to play in the North-South game. And it was really a tremendous honor for the kids who were chosen. But the North-South game was a tremendous positive thing for Murray State at the time.
No question about it.
Some of the players that played in it: Bob Pettit, Tom Heinsohn. He's not a basketball player, but Jim Taylor, the old football guy, played for the Packers. He played in it.
Tom Gola.
Tom Gola.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just
You can go back through the pro ranks. Any
And these
number
were
of
high
players
school
that have
guys.
played.
yeah.
Well then, when was it played and why did it stop?
Well, the NCAA stopped it from being played on college campuses, and so that's how it was. That's why they lost it.
Playing during the month of June. It was played during the month of June.
It was 8 years. They had it 8 years.
And it was a good draw.
Every coach in the country came down here, didn't they, Cal? Every one of them.
At that time, you had all of the big name coaches in the country showed up here. Hank Iva was a regular
Claire
visitor
B.
here. Claire B., who was a legend at the time. Eddie Hickey from St. Louis. You had everybody
Ray
showed up here.
Meyer,
It was just
DePaul, Ray Meyer showed
Yeah.
up.
Harry Litwack from Temple.
Harry Litwack.
Yeah.
I forgot about Harry Litwack.
Well, Coach, what about Howie Crittenden? What'd you think of him?
Well, I'll tell you what, I wish I would have been able to coach Howie. I'll tell you what, because playing against him in three-man and observing some of the old films, etc., gosh darn, he was the best ball-handling guy and quickest guy I'd ever been around. I'd played in service in college and still enjoyed playing, but gosh darn, there was just no guarding him. He was so quick and could shoot it and get the ball away as quick as anybody I'd seen. He was an outstanding player. It's easy to see how he achieved all of his personal records at Murray and also as an Olympic person.
Okay, this is Adolph. This old store was here.
I was going to say that old store's there.
Yeah, my dad built that house. we had a little, about an acre and a half behind it. That's where we kept with 2 or 3 cows and our mule and mare and 4 or 5 pigs. But it was rough. I mean, on the inside, it was rough. We had 3 rooms. He had a barn that we had down there about where that looked like where a garden used to be. And that's where it had a little old pond in there. And so when we would come back from work, that's where the mule and mare would
Stayed down there.
Yeah.
When did you first hear Frank Ramsey?
Well, I had heard of Frank Ramsey even when he was in high school. I was 2 years behind you. I graduated from high school in '52.
All right, 3 years. I got out in 49.
Oh, okay. So I was 3 years. And then over the years, I watched, of course, every UK game that was televised. And then when he was with the Celtics, gee, I watched every one that I had an opportunity to. And he was kind of my hero because he could come in off the bench and he seemed to be happy and he seemed to contribute just as much as any of the starters and sometimes more. And so I've always had tremendous respect and appreciation for Frank's ability. And Coach Rupp came down to Cuba. I don't know how he found Cuba, but Cuba High School, and that was when I was a senior. And the next year is when the UK was going to be suspended without playing at all. And for some reason, Frank, he scared me to death. I think it was his voice, because I had never actually heard him in person. And the other thing that scared me is because of the style of play that Coach Story, our high school coach, had taught us. He'd shown us Globetrotter films and we'd copied and we'd gotten pretty good at it. And I didn't know if Coach Rupp would let me play my style, because I'd heard a lot of things about how he could be really tough and that if you didn't do exactly what he said, you wouldn't be playing. And so I was really scared of him. And I didn't have any reason to, other than just my personal imagination. And then he came back when we were playing a little school called Farmington. Farmington is in Grace County, and we knew we could beat Farmington just about as bad as we wanted to. So after the first quarter, we got ahead of them. Well, we started putting on our show, and Doodles Floyd, our center, who was a clown, started chasing me like he wanted the ball, and I wouldn't give it to him, and I dribbled through his legs and went down, put the ball behind my back, passed off to a kid on the basket. Coach Diddle was there the same night. They said Coach Diddle just laughed, but Coach said Coach Rupp never cracked a smile. So he sat up there. Well, those things scared me from him. And he offered me a scholarship at UK, but I was just too scared of him to try.
Well, it's interesting you would say that, because when we would go into practice, if you were, practice started at 3:15. And if you weren't there, the gate was locked and you didn't eat supper. But when you went in and nobody stopped talking during practice. All you got rid of the 13,000 seats in the Memorial Coliseum.
Yeah.
The only sound you heard was him talking to bounce the basketball. And he was a dictator, as I said, but he convinced us we could win. And I know when you'd make a mistake, boy, he could point it out in the most unflattering way, like C.M. Newton threw the ball away, and he says, "Newton, come over here." And he had that Kansas twang, you know.
Oh, yeah.
He says, "Sit down." C.M. crossed, sat down Indian fashion, looked up. He says, "Newton, you're nothing but a Shetland pony and a stud horse derby." And he would be at one end of the court, and Harry Lax would be at the other end of the court. And whoever made the mistake, somebody saw it. And but he taught me a lot about discipline in basketball and following instructions. And he was tough, and he could say some of the most outlandish things. And
I'd like to know who had the most influence on you in your life, not just basketball, but
well, it had to be your mother and father.
yeah.
Of course, they raised you. My daddy made me, back during the Second World War, they couldn't get farm labor. So my daddy put me on a farm down in Henderson County, and that's where I grew to hate tobacco. They taught me to work and to save, and I think they've always supported me, so I would say the two people in my life that had the most influence would be my mother and daddy. And then as you start out, your coaches, Adolph Rupp had a tremendous effect on me. In fact, he had a tremendous effect on a lot of kids because he took them out of small towns in Kentucky. You had, I was out of town of 5,000. Most of us had never been on an airplane till we went to Kentucky. And he fit us into a system and taught us that we could win using his system and made us believe it. And we did. We did what he told us to. And of course, he never lost a game. We lost the game, but he won them all. And then when that was over, Red Auerbach had a great influence on me because I was with him for about 9 years, over a 10-year period. I was in the Army for a year, and I played 9 years, and we won 7 championships.
That's amazing. 7 out of 9. Well, what happened the other 2 years?
Well, the first one, we were, my rookie year, we were beaten by New York in the second round. And then in 1958, Russell broke his foot and the Hawks beat us. Yeah. Other than that, I think we would have won the whole thing.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the ExxonMobil West and West Show. Wes Strader with Gary P. West here at Claudia's Tea Room. It's another special guest here. We just can't get them all in. Howard Crittenden, put that microphone about right here, Howie. Good to see you. Good to see you.
It's good to see you.
He doesn't have a headset on, and it's noisy in here. So, listeners, he's not deaf yet.
A lot of people here, a lot of ex-athletes, and a lot of great people here that I've seen over the years.
It's legends
of
of which you're one of them, and sort of to pay tribute to Corky Withrow and his soon-to-be induction into the Hall of Fame.
I feel so lucky to have had the opportunity to play basketball all the years that I did, and then be associated with basketball through, started out as coaching, and then got into the principalship, which I loved, really loved.
The two great state championships to me down through the years have been the Cuba Cubs in 52.
52 is the year that we won it.
56.
We were runners-up in 51.
Runners-up 51. Came back 52. You're looking good. Everything going good for you? Playing a lot of golf?
You guys don't look any older than you did a few years ago.
Well, thank you, Howard.
No, I guarantee you he's playing a little golf. I can tell you that.
Remember, and what is it? It's Crittenden.
Crittenden's what Coach Diddle called him.
Oh, Coach Diddle, yeah. He really helped me when my senior year. Because my coach, Rex Alexander, who was a great guy, did
wonderful
a great
man.
job as
I got
coach,
to know Coach.
But the pro scouts didn't know Rex like they knew Coach Diddle, and they would ask Coach Diddle about me being over at Murray State, and some of the things he said was just great.
Mr. Diddle was that way. He'd compete against you, but he respected you.
Well, I had one coach tell me that, said, Coach Diddle said you were the greatest guard in America. And I said, Coach Diddle knows basketball.
Good to see you, Howard.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by.
We're in Henderson today with another former All-American, Roger Burns from Corbin. He was an All-American University of Kentucky in 1965. Went on to play 4 seasons with the Oakland Raiders. So played one, not a Super Bowl, but a World Championship.
And fortunate enough to be drafted #1 by the Oakland Raiders, and had an opportunity to go to Dallas, and elected to go to the Gold Coast where the weather was a little bit cooler, and fortunate enough to go to Kentucky and having a pretty good career up there, and meeting a lot of good people, and that's where I met my wife, and I've ended up here in Henderson in the insurance business, and it's been, pretty rewarding.
Howie and Roger have a connection. Howie was principal at Henderson County High School for 21 years, and had both of Roger's children come through the system. And he bragged about them profusely, by the way, both Paul and
They're
his
good
sister.
kids.
They're good kids. So, Howie, what memories do you have of this young man?
Well, my introduction to the Bird family was back in 1952 when Roger's brother, Jerry's probably the best athlete in the family.
Hey,
He was
could have been, yeah.
And we played Corbin, and we ended up being very fortunate to beat them in the state tournament. Now, my introduction to Roger, when he was a senior at UK, and I was assistant basketball coach at the University of Missouri. And UK came out to play Missouri, and of course, with me being the only coach from Kentucky, they were questioning me who I was going to be for and all. And of course, you know, I had to be very careful what I said there. And so then I came up to Henderson County as principal. I'd been principal 8 years at Callaway County, and I'd always had this desire that I wanted to be a principal in one of the largest schools in Kentucky. And Henderson County was and still is. And Roger was a big supporter of our school, and whatever I asked him to do, he would be willing to help us out. And I have a great lot of respect for Roger and his wife, and his son and daughter were, well, outstanding. I mean, they were tremendous. I love them both, still do. What I'm extremely proud of is the fact that I had an opportunity to be a high school principal for 29 years. 8 of those years at Callaway County and Murray, and then 21 years here in Henderson, and to be able to work with tremendous kids, teenagers, and great parents. But I'm really proud of the achievements that we made as a faculty, but tremendous administrators. And I was very lucky, and it was through their help, through the faculty and having the kids and parents, that I have received a number of honors. But Henderson County was a tremendous opportunity for me. You came here in 71. I didn't know how long you'd been here. When I came in 74, and you were already here. I didn't know you very well at that time.
Well, I knew you, that's for sure. But I tell you what, with Brother Jerry, and certainly remembering Cuba and all the certainly hardships that those players had, you know, where he grew up, you know, if he ever wanted to get out down there, he had to dribble his way out, and that's pretty much what happened. And a lot of us have, you know, we've cashed in on that train.
It made you, as you achieved things, it made you proud of yourself. See, the only way I had of getting any recognition was to be good at playing basketball. And in the 8th grade, when they started noticing us, I started copying Marcus Hames, and people would notice, man, that motivated me, and that made me work a lot harder.
You gentlemen obviously have achieved much. From where you come a long way. But I think you might be forgetting one thing, that is that all along the line have been those who've been watching you. Kids watching you, parents, watching how you handle things, and it's affected their lives that you've never even known about. So it's the seed you sow that you'll never see the tree grow, but it sure makes a difference in people like you, true Kentuckians who have been successes and the things you.
I think we both did pretty good for 2 old country boys, and what we hate to see is when they get that close and they don't make it. That's what gets you.
What basketball did for me is what nothing else could have done, because that's the only thing I had to help me to get out of an environment where we didn't have any money. We had a lot of love, but basketball gave me an opportunity to go to college, to be recognized. Even now that I'm 76, people aren't too many older than I am now, but some of them still remember. And basketball gave me an opportunity to what seems like the sky has been unlimited for me. And it's been a great feeling to look back.
My Lord, he's done just what he said. Let the light from your lighthouse shine on me. Heal the sick and raise the dead. Let the light from your lighthouse shine on me. Oh, let it shine on. Oh, let it shine on. Let the light from your lighthouse shine on me. Shine on. Oh, let it shine on. Let the light from your lighthouse shine on me. Well, I know I got religion and I ain't ashamed. Let the light from